This story isn't all that scary, once you find out what's going on in the end, but was very unsettling at the time. This happened last summer. My husband's best friend flew out from LA to visit us in rural Iowa. My husband grew up in LA, but I was raised here, and this is where we decided to settle down. We wanted to give our friend the full rural or small town experience, and one thing you don't realize when you're from the city is how completely pitch black it is out here, with no street lamps or city lights to illuminate the night. It's something my husband commented when he first moved here. There is a dense forest that covers several square miles just outside of town, and it's a protected wildlife reserve. There are a lot of legends about this forest being haunted, because it was the site of a bloody battle between Native American tribes, and also a burial ground. The creepy old stone tower and dilapidated amphitheater in the middle of the woods are said to be especially haunted. There is also a pond in the heart of the forest that the locals refer to as Dead Man's Lake, because somebody drowned in it several years ago and the body was never recovered. I'm not sure if it was accidental or a suicide, but I've heard many different renditions of the story. I don't believe in ghosts, and I'm not afraid of the dark or the woods, but my husband's friend does. This park technically closes at 10 p.m., but we decided to risk it and took our friend into the forest at midnight on a moonless night. We visited the tower first. I had never seen it at night, and the sight of its black silhouette against the starry sky, surrounded by gnarled and dead trees, was an unsettling one that set the mood for the rest of the night. After a little convincing, we got our friend to follow us into the tower, up the old creaky spiral staircase. We spent some time surveying the surrounding scenery and enjoying our view of the clear night sky from the tower's rooftop lookout. The view was magnificent, and I thought it looked magical, but our friend just seemed to be getting more nervous by the second. We hiked back down the long dirt trail to the car, but kept hearing what sounded like footsteps coming from the trees on both sides and from behind us. He thought it could be something paranormal, but I was worried about drug dealers or meth heads, since there is a large population of sketchy people and some meth labs are heard to be busted in this area. My husband and I both had our 9mm pistols strapped to our belts, but we didn't want to have to use them. We picked up our pace back to the car and drove further into the forest, to the place where the trail to the old amphitheater begins. Our friend was really on edge now, since the trees are much denser in this part of the forest and it is incredibly dark. We convinced him to follow us down the steep and rocky trail to the amphitheater. When we arrived, I noticed a tall structure standing in the center of the amphitheater that has never been there before, but it was too dark to tell what it was. I had been using only the light of my smartwatch to guide my way, so as not to ruin the eerie illusion created by the inky darkness of the forest with a flashlight beam. At this point, even my husband was becoming uneasy and wanted to turn back, but I had to know what that mysterious object was, which had appeared in the last 2 days since my last hike to this part of the forest. I carefully made my way down into the center of the arena, and drew closer to the structure, my husband and our friend following closely behind. When I was a couple feet away from the object, I lifted my wrist to illuminate it with the light from my watch. That's when I felt a sense of dread and fear washing over me. Standing before me was a 10-foot-tall wooden arch wrapped in red silk and adorned with animal bones and red roses. The skull of a deer with massive antlers was mounted at its peak. A smaller object that sat lower to the ground, that I hadn't seen before, looked to be some kind of stone altar. Suddenly, the rustling noises coming from the forest on all sides that I had previously chalked up to animals or the wind seemed much more threatening. My first thought was that a malicious cult or a band of Satanists was lying in wait to sacrifice us to a demon. As ridiculous as it sounds, at that moment it seemed possible and likely. All three of us jumped and turned toward the direction of our car when we heard a car door close and saw the faint glow of headlights peeking through the trees. We rushed back up the trail, expecting to find some crackheads attempting to break into our car. We didn't know whether to be relieved or apprehensive when we saw a DRN truck parked next to our car, and the officer scanning the trees with his flashlight. He greeted us and asked what we were up to. We told him that we were showing our friend around, and he informed us that the park was closed. He noticed our firearms, and asked for our permits and IDs, which we gave him. He went back to his truck to run our info and returned minutes later with an $80 ticket for being in the park past closing. After that, we spent about 15 minutes having a friendly chat with the officer, when he asked, "So what's the amphitheater look like at night?" I told him it was really creepy, and proceeded to describe what we had witnessed. The officer chuckled at the terrified looks on our faces, and told us that a Wiccan couple had rented out the amphitheater for their wedding tomorrow, and had been by today to decorate. So a bit of a disappointing ending. I was relieved at first, but also disappointed. I plan to return to the forest on another dark night, but this time I'll go alone, and I'll go in on foot, so the DRN can't find me.